Well, it is absolutely my pleasure this evening to introduce our speaker, and it's going to take a little while for us to get there, so hold on because he's done quite a bit. John Jordan Buck O'Neill was born November 13th, 1911, in Carabel, Florida, and was introduced to baseball at an early age by his father, who played for local teams. He was nicknamed Buck after the co-owner of the Miami Giants, Buck O'Neill. He began his career in the late 1930s with the Miami Giants, a barnstorming team, later named the Ethiopian Giants and the Indianapolis Clowns. Then came the Shreveport Acme Giants and the Memphis Red Sox, his first major club. In 1939, he began an association with the Kansas City Monarchs that would last for 17 seasons. As first baseman, Buck was part of the Monarchs club that won 4 consecutive Negro American League pennants from 1939 to 1942. After 3 years of active duty in the military, Buck returned to the league in 1946. He hit .288 in his 12-year playing career with the Monarchs, including 4 300-plus seasons at the plate, with a career-high .358 mark in 1947. He had a league-leading .353 average in 1946 and .345 and .330 averages in 1940 and 49, respectively. He played in 3 Negro American League All-Star games and in 2 Negro American League World Series. In addition to his career with the Monarchs, Buck teamed with the legendary Satchel Paige during the height of barnstorming in the 1930s and 40s, when Negro League teams traveled across the country to play countless exhibition games. Following his career with the Monarchs, O'Neill moved on to Major League Baseball as a scout with the Chicago Cubs in 1956 and was named the major's first black coach by the Cubs in 1962. He was credited with signing the Hall of Fame Ernie Banks and Lou Brock and Baltimore Orioles outfielder Joe Carter to their first pro contracts. Today, Buck serves as a scout for the Kansas City Royals and has his own special seat behind home plate at Kauffman Stadium. He serves as a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame Veterans Committee and is chairman of the board of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay, we're going to do a quick poll. How many of you in the audience were played against Babe Ruth? Can I see a show of hands? Gee, just one hand went up. Ladies and gentlemen, many of us were introduced to Mr. O'Neill in the Ken Burns PBS video, the 9-part series on baseball, as one of the chief historians. But we're pleased and honored and proud to bring him to you tonight in person. Let's give the warmest Colorado Springs welcome to Mr. Buck O'Neill. You don't miss a hug.
No. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sit down. I've been a lot of places. I've done a lot of things that I really like doing. I hit the home run. I hit the grand slam home run. I hit for the cycle. I scored the winning touchdown. Yes. I've had a hole-in-one in golf. I shook hands with President Truman, shook hands with President Clinton, and I hugged Hillary. So I've done a lot of things I really like doing, but I tell you what, I'd rather be right here, right now, than any place I've ever been. Yeah. I've had a good life. I really have. Had a good life. Started out Carabel, Florida. My father was a baseball player, sawmiller. They played all the sawmills, towns, and took me along as the bat boy. And I always had good hands. I could catch the ball. And The men would throw me the ball and I'd catch it, and the people just loved it. I was a ham. I loved it too. I had a good time. And baseball took me. We moved to Sarasota, Florida. That's where I was raised up. And I loved that game. And I attended Booker Grammar School because in the state of Florida, it was only 4 cities in the state of Florida that a black kid could attend high school. That was Miami, West Palm Beach, Jacksonville, and Tampa. That was all. In 1924, they're building a brand new high school in Sarasota, pretty building. And I know I'm running around, I'm going to Sarasota High School, I'm going to Sarasota High School. My grandmother said, sit down, boy, I want to talk to you. I said, yes'm. She said, you aren't going to Sarasota High School. I said, why, Grandma? She said, Sarasota High School is for white kids. I cried a little. She said, don't cry. Because one day, I won't live to see it, but one day all kids will be able to attend Sarasota High School. And I tell you what, 3 years ago, Sarasota High School gave me an honorary diploma. And listen, and they had so many kids, they invited every kid in Sarasota County to come to my graduation. They had so many kids, they had to move it out of the auditorium, they moved it in the football stadium. And when I marched in, these kids started singing, Buck, we're glad you're home. Buck, we're glad you're home. And when I got up to speak, I said, now, this is Martin's dream. Yeah, because actually the children that was singing this was the great-grandchildren of the people that wouldn't let me attend Sarasota High School only for one reason, because I was wearing this beautiful tan. But I tell you, it was good, but I couldn't let that stop me. Mrs. Booker, the principal at Booker Grammar School, and she said, now this 8th grade education is not enough. So I'm going to teach summer school, I'll teach night school so you can get some more. Okay, I attended the summer school and the night school, but I worked at Palmer Farm. Palmer Farm was a celery farm. And I went out, I wanted to be the box boy. And it was 5 kids there to be the box boy for this job. And the man asked him, why do you want to be a box boy on Palmer Farm? I was the last kid he asked. Said, John, why do you want to be a box boy at Palmer Farm? I said, mister, I'm going to be the best damn box boy you ever had. Said, you got the job. I got that job. Palmer Farm was 1.5 miles long and 1/2 mile wide. And I had to put these boxes out for them to put this celery in. They never had to holler box boy because I had that field lined out with boxes. They paid $1 a day. But I was so good they paid me $1.25 a day. I was a good box boy. One day, you know how hot and humid it can get in Florida. One day, my father was a foreman on this farm. So at lunchtime, the old folk were eating on one side of my boxes and I was on the other side by myself. It was hot. I said, damn, it's got to be something better than this. I didn't know my father heard me. That night, we get off the truck and we walking home. He said, I heard what you said behind the boxes today. I say, oh, I thought he was going to reprimand me for saying damn because he'd never heard me say damn before. To tell you the truth, I doubt if I'd ever said damn before, but it was hot that day. He said, son, there is something better than this, but you got to go farther than here to get it. I said, man, where can I go? I'm a pretty good athlete now because I'm 18 years old. He said, well, and you play ball on the weekend? with a teacher out at Sarasota Grammar School. He went to Edward Waters College. Say, I tell you what, say, why don't you talk to him? Maybe you can get a scholarship to go up there to high school and then college. I said, okay. I called him. His name was Hazley, Lloyd Hazley. I called Hazley and I told him what I wanted to do. He said, all right, I'll come out to your house. He came out to the house and he brought Mrs. Booker with him. And he called Ox Clemens, Coach Ox Clemens, Edward Waters College, Jacksonville, Florida. And he said, Coach, I got a guy here that's a good athlete and I think he could help your program. The coach says, well, I believe he must be a pretty good athlete, Lloyd, but is he actually, you think you think he can get the grades out here? You think he's academically sound enough to come up here? He said, I'll let you talk to Miss Booker. He talked with Miss Booker, and Miss Booker said, yeah, he can handle it, Coach. I get to Edward Waters College, man, and I never felt so good in my life. I'm looking at all these young black kids going places, going to do things. I loved it. I took the examination. Instead of putting me in the 9th grade where I thought I was going, they put me in the 11th grade. That's what Miss Booker had done for me. Tell you what, I got the 2 years high school. I got my diploma. In my going to college now, my second year, my sophomore year, I'm a pretty good ball player now. And the guys some of the ball players would go north to play ball, and they said, why don't you come and go north with us this year and play ball, man? Make a little tuition money for the winter. I said, okay. So I joined the Miami Johnson and went north with them to play ball. Went all the way into Canada. Had a good year. Had fine. Got back to Miami. Buck said, you're a pretty good ball player. Why don't you sit down here and play with us this winter? I said, no, man. I got to go back to school. He said, you always talk about Miss Booker. I said, how much money does Miss Booker make? I said, $60 a month. He said, you made more money than that playing with us. I said, yeah, sure did, didn't I? And that night I called Mama. I said, Mama, I want to stay down here and play ball this winter. She said, no, boy, you got to go back to school. I said, but Mama, I made more money than Miss Booker. He said, boy, Miss Booker can work on that job till she's 70 if she wants to. But when you're 35, 40 years old, when you're through in baseball, what you going to do? I said, Mama, let me talk to Papa. Knowing a man, you know, he's so proud of his son playing with the Miami Giants. He's a good ball player, and that's what he tell him all on the farm how I was doing. He said, son, you can stay down there this winter and play ball, but next winter you got to go back to school. I said, yes, sir. I played that winter, had a good winter in Miami. Went north that summer, played ball, I'm a pretty good ball player now. Get back to Miami, time for me to go to school. They wanted me to come to play in Cuba. They're going to pay me $400 a month. I go to Cuba. I tell you what, I've had a wonderful career. I really did. But I don't know what I might have been. I really don't know what I might have been. See, because I had a good baseball. My career was great in baseball. After my baseball playing days, I went to work with the Chicago Cubs as a scout. In 1962, I was the first black coach in the major leagues. I had a good career. But I tell you what, the general manager died. And I tell you, I knew more about the Cubs system than anybody on the Cubs organization. Not because I was smarter than anybody there, but why I knew so much about it is I went to spring training with the Cubs, and I worked the Cubs ball players. I worked with them. When the Cub ball club left, I worked with the AAA team. When they left, I worked with the AA team. When they left, I worked with the A right on through the D. I knew every player. I knew everything about the Cubs system. The general manager passed. And Mr. Wrigley said, I'm going to get a general manager from the organization. 5 guys, and old Buck was one of the 5. I'm feeling good. It got down to 2, and old Buck was one of the 2. Feeling very good now. I didn't get the job. And it wasn't because I was black I didn't get that job. Why I didn't get the job, the man that got the job had a BS from the University of Chicago. He had his master's from the University of Pittsburgh. He's working toward his doctorate. See, the general manager of a ball club might have breakfast with the mayor. He might have lunch with the governor. He might have dinner with the president of the United States. I had the baseball lure, but I didn't have that other thing that this other man had. Had I been able to have attended Sarasota High School or matriculated at the University of Florida, I just might have been the first black general manager in baseball. Yeah. See, I don't know what I might have been, really, if I had finished that education. So it's just so many things, but I was fortunate. I could play a little. So I go to play with the Kansas City Monarchs. And going to play with the Kansas City Monarchs to me was like, I say, like a white boy from the textile mills in South Carolina or the cotton fields in Mississippi going to play the New York Yankees. Hear me from the Surrey fields going to play with the great Kansas City Monarchs. And let me tell you something. Some of the greatest ball players that ever lived. We could play. Yeah. And they always tell me, I know you're sorry you didn't play Major League Baseball. Don't feel sorry for me. I said, don't feel sorry for me because I played some of the best baseball that was ever played. See, the Negro Leagues was nothing like the Bingo Long story. No, nothing like Soul of the Game. The Negro League was the 3rd largest black business in this country. First was black insurances, Metropolitan, Omaha, the great insurances, the big insurances would insure us 10 or 15 cent policy, just enough to bury us. But the black insurances, North Carolina Mutual, Atlanta Life, Universal, they insured our homes, our farms, our crops, our stock. They made millions. Next was Madam C.J. Walker. You see this pretty hair right there? Madam C.J. Walker was doing that 75 or 80 years ago. Madam C.J. Walker, that's cosmetology. Madam C.J. Walker had a school of cosmetology in every principal city in the United States. Madam C.J. Walker made millions. First black woman millionaire in this country. Next, Negro League Baseball. All you needed was a bus, a couple of sets of uniforms, and you could have 20 of the best athletes that ever lived. That was Negro League Baseball. We played Major League All-Stars every year. Bobby Feller All-Stars, Babe Ruth All-Stars, Dizzy Dean All-Stars. Tell you what, we won the majority of the ball game. Not because we were better than the Major League ball players, but we had something to prove. The world said the Major League ball player was the best ball players in the world. See? And they were just playing actually for a payday. But we had to prove to the world that they weren't superior because they were white, and we weren't inferior because we were black. So we stretched that single into a double. We stretched that double into a triple. Yeah. And if you wasn't too smart, we would steal that home base. Yeah. So actually, see, a major leaguer couldn't afford to twist an ankle and get hurt in an exhibition ball game. But no, we were all out. This is why we won the majority of the ball games. We could play. Yeah, we could play, played with, Played against Babe Ruth. First time I saw the man. I'm in Sarasota. We would be outside the ballpark, and during the batting practice, they hit the ball over the fence. We would get the balls, and after the game, we'd come around and sell them to the tourists. And this day, see, I've seen great baseball all my life. New York Giants trained in Sarasota. Up north at Tampa was the New York Yankees. Down south, 70 miles south, was Connie Mack, the Philadelphia Athletic. So I'd seen great baseball all my life. But I tell you, we would always get the Tampa Tribune, great sports section. The kids would come to my house before we'd go out to practice, and I'd spread it out in the backyard on the grass, and we would read about what happened in the major leagues. I'd probably be Babe Ruth, another kid would be Connie Mack, another kid would be Miller Huggins, and another kid, Ty Cobb. When we'd go out to practice, we would emulate those ball players. My uncle came to town. My uncle was a railroad man. He lived in New York City. He lived in Harlem. And he came, and I was telling him about the great baseball player that I've ever seen, the greatest baseball players in the world. He said, how do you know they're the greatest baseball players in the world? I said, they're in the major league. He said, well, I tell you what, I'm coming down here, and I'm going to, this fall, I'm going to come down here and take you and your daddy down to West Palm Beach. I want you to see some other ball players. I said, yes, sir. I'm a appeasing old man because I know I'd seen Babe Ruth, I'd seen Ty Cobb, I'd seen Walter Johnson. You know what I mean? I knew I'd seen the best ball players in the world. He did come that fall. And man, let me tell you, I went to Palm Beach. Royal Ponciana Hotel, one of the greatest tourist hotels in the country at the time. Representing that hotel was Rube Foster and Chicago American Giants, the Negro National League. Over at the Breakers Hotel, another big tourist hotel, over there was C.I. Taylor, Indianapolis ABCs. They would play Thursday. We called Thursday Maid's Day Off. They had a half day off on Thursday. That was for the help. The waiters, the porters, the chauffeurs, and all would come to that ball game. This is Taylor, and entertain the tourists. I tell you what, see, in baseball, Major League Baseball, Ruth, you'd go to the ball game. You might go get some peanuts or popcorn or something until Ruth come up or Jimmy Fox or one of those big hitters come up. But down there when I saw this ball club, Ruth Foster had 8 guys on his ball club, and C.I. Taylor had 8 on his ball club, could steal you 100 bases, could hit you 20 or 30 home runs, could hit you 350 or 400. Yeah, and actually, you couldn't go out to get nothing. You just had to stay there because they might show you something you'd never seen before. You'd walk the guy, he's still second, still third, still home. Yeah, you just couldn't go. You'd see some catches you'd never seen in your life. But, man, when I got back to Sarasota, my uncle sent me the Amsterdam News. That was the New York City weekly. My father subscribed to the Pittsburgh Courier and the Chicago Defender. It was a black week. And now the kids would come to my house, and we didn't get the paper until around Tuesday. They all would come to my house, and I'd spread these papers out. And now the kid would be, maybe I would be Ruth Foster. Another kid would be C.I. Taylor. Another kid would be Bull June Wilson. Another kid would be Satchel Paige. Another kid would be Cool Papa Bell. You understand what I mean? It gave me hope that I'd never had before because these men were making their living playing baseball. See, the only somebody I'd seen making a living playing baseball was white. So I didn't, I had no idea about playing baseball, and I did. But here it was. Now I can do it. Then I studied. I really put my heart in it then and got to the great Kansas City Monarchs. When I got there, man, I saw all of these great, great baseball players, and I just loved it. I loved it. And see, Kansas City, Sunday, and Our churches would start at 11 o'clock Sunday, 11 o'clock service. When the Monarchs was in town, they started at 10 o'clock so they could get to the ball game in time. And they would come looking good. Oh, man, they would come and pack the ballpark. Ballpark was 17,000 people in the ballpark. We put 20. We'd have them standing all around in the ballpark. Yeah, that was the Monarchs. That was Negro League Baseball. And see, the people ask me, say, what's the difference in baseball today and baseball when you played? The only difference is we aren't as big or quick as the kids are now. No, but during my era, football, basketball was more or less college sports. But if you wanted to make a living professionally, you played baseball. That's what you did. So the best white athlete in the world played Major League Baseball. The best black athlete in the world played Negro League Baseball. So we had great athletes. See? And the only difference is, during my era, we got the best athlete. Right now, the best athlete in the world might be dunking the basketball. Just retired, didn't he? Uh-huh. Yeah, the best. Yeah, you understand what I mean? Because a best athlete might be serving that tennis ball 100 miles an hour. Yeah. The best athlete might be running that football or catching it or throwing that football. See? So actually, we just have to get the best athlete in the world anymore. But before, we did. But it is a great game, and I tell you what, I will never let anybody, I will never let the commissioner of baseball, the owner of a baseball team, yeah, the union head in baseball, or a baseball player spoil baseball for me. Yeah, because baseball is America's sport. Yeah, anybody can play it. You don't have to be 7 feet tall to play baseball. No. And I tell you what, you live in the greatest country on earth. I've been all over the world. The greatest country on earth, right here. Don't you let anybody tell you any different. See, because a kid now can be anything he wants to be. And one day, yeah, I might come here and that boy sitting there with that Cub cap on, I might say, why, good morning, Mr. Mayor. That's right. He's got that chance. I might say, this other boy sitting over here, I say, good morning, Mr. Governor. That's right. And that little girl, the man brought in here in his arm. One day, I might walk into the Oval Office and say, good morning, Madam President. Yeah, because one day in this country, we're going to have a woman president. Yeah. So everything is here for you. Everything is here for you. And I don't want you to ever forget it. Now, I'll tell you what. There's a book I know you hate it because you came a little too soon. You didn't play Major League Baseball. I said, no. I was right on time. That's why that book you got there. Yeah. Had I been earlier, I wouldn't have played against Babe Ruth. You know? I wouldn't have played against a Bobby Feller. I wouldn't have played against a Satchel Paige or Josh Gibson or Cool Papa Bell. No, I was right on time. Sure I was. And so many wonderful things I've seen happen in this country. Look at me. You know what I mean? I am 87 years old. I walked on the scale this morning. When I came to the Kansas City Monarchs, I was 6'1", I weighed 190 pounds. Got on the scale this morning, 6'1", 190. God's been good to me. God's been good to me. And when you go back, see, when Jackie Robinson, when Branch Ricketts signed Jackie Robinson to that contract. That was the beginning of the modern day civil rights movement. I say modern day because, you know, the civil rights movement started way down in Egypt land. My God needed a man and he called Moses. That's what he did. In Asia, he needed a man he called Muhammad. Yeah. Down in Jerusalem, God sent his son, Jesus. My God is a great God. Man, he did so many wonderful things. Over here, my people came over in the boat, in the bottom of the boat. Yeah. God saw that they weren't treated right here. You know who he called? Abe Lincoln. That's what he did. That's what my God did. Yeah. And after he freed us, he needed somebody else. And he called some people that he needed. Let me tell you who he called. He called Frederick Douglass. Yeah. He called Sojourner Truth. Called Harriet Tubman. That's what my God did. Said, go down there and I want you to straighten these things out. And then, baseball. We could play, and they wouldn't let us play Major League Baseball. He called another man. He called Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey signed a black man, Jackie Robinson. Now, Jackie wasn't the best ball player in the Negro League. No. See, because Jackie only played in that 1 year. He played professionally 1 year. But we had guys that played there 10 years. You understand what better ball players than Jackie at the time, but he was the right man. He did something. We had been going to a filling station in Oklahoma for 20 years, the Monarchs, and we never gone to the restroom because a sign on the door in the restroom said, white men only. We played in that town that night, 1945. The man comes out, oh, you boys played a great game last night as usual. We filled up the park, and I put on a great show. We put the hose in the tank. Jackie gets off the bus and starts walking toward the restroom. He said, hey, boy, where you going? Say, I'm going to the restroom. He said, boy, you know you can't go to that restroom. Jackie said, take the hose out the tank. Now the man thought a little, because we got a 50-gallon tank on this side. We got a 50-gallon tank on that side. He's not going to sell that much gas to one customer until we got back there again. You know what he said? You boys go to the restroom, but don't stay long. But the gist of that thing was this. From that day on, we never got gas at the station. We couldn't go to the bathroom. We never played in a town that didn't have a place for us to stay or a place for us to eat. Jackie said, listen, this is a capitalistic society. You are making money for these people. You don't have to take that. We were acclimated to segregation, but not Jackie. That's why when Jackie went to the major leagues, Jackie was the right guy. See, because the guys I knew that was better than Jackie at the time, had they thrown a black cat on the field with one of those guys I'm talking about, he would have picked up that black cat and rammed it down whoever thought that threw it. You understand what I mean? And that would have spoiled the whole thing. It might have been 50 more years before, because a lot of people say it's not going to work. But it did work. And they say, Buck, I know you hate people for what they did to you. I said, no, man. I never learned how to hate. I really didn't. I hate cancer. Cancer killed my mother. My wife died last November, was a year ago, from cancer. I hate cancer. I hate AIDS. A friend of mine, 35 years old, died 3 months ago from AIDS. I hate AIDS. I hate what the Klan will do. I hate what the skinhead will do, but I can't hate a man. God's creature. Yeah, I can't hate God's creature. I love them. You know, Martin said this. That was Dr. Martin Luther King. Agape is understanding, creative, overwhelming goodwill toward all men. Agape is an overflowing love which seeks nothing in return. Theologians would say it's the love of God operating in the human heart. And when you reach love on this level, you love all men not because you like them, not because you like, you know what I mean, their ways, but you love them because God loved them. And I love you. And I want you to do something for old Buck. Now, I want you to hold hands, everybody in here. Grab a hand. Grab a hand. Grab a hand. All right. Now, I know you black people in here can sing. Now, with you white folks, I'm seeking you sing. You got to prove it to me. I'm from Missouri. Sing after me. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. Thank you. Woo! Yeah. I hope you like that. I hope you did. And if you got any questions for me, if I don't know, I'll lie and tell you I do. So, any questions? Yes.
Questions, Mr. O'Neill. The first one is, who would you consider the 10 or 15 greatest players, black or white, that ever lived?
15? You asking a whole lot.
All right, 12. The second is, do you think Pete Rose should be allowed in the Hall of Fame ever?
Yeah, well, and Pete Rose should have been in the Hall of Fame, but Pete Rose had some terrible advice. Pete Rose got the advice. All Pete Rose had was done was told, said, Mr. Giamatti, I was wrong. He'd have been in there. But Pete thought he was bigger than baseball. You can't let one individual be bigger than anything. No. So, but Pete's going to get in one day. We're going to see that he gets in. Now, the ball players, it's been true any great ball players for you. Oh, man, but the greatest Major League ball player I ever saw was Willie Mays, but the greatest baseball player I ever saw was Oscar Charleston. Oscar Charleston played with the Indianapolis ABCs, and we old-timers say the closest thing to Oscar Charleston was Babe Ruth. Yeah. Yeah. And you know the greatest ball player in the world. I don't mean me telling you who the greatest ball player, you know what I mean. Because there's been a whole lot of outstanding baseball players, you know. But if I was going to pick a all-star team, I'm going to pitch a great ball club. I think for my catcher would be Josh Gibson, and my next catcher would be, Johnny Bench. That's right, Johnny Bench. My first baseman would be Lou Gehrig. Mm-hmm. My second baseman would be Jackie Robinson. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. My third baseman would be Smith. Mm-hmm. Played with Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And the shortstop position, that's a tough spot. because we had some great shortstops. And if I was looking for power, Ernie Banks would have to be my shortstop. The outfield would be Oscar Charleston, Willie Mays. Yeah. I would have to have Babe Ruth. Yeah, really. That would be a good baseball club. And for my pitchers, I would take 2 pitchers, and my right-hander would be Satchel Paige, and my left-hander would be Colfax. Anybody else with a question? You again?
No Ty Cobb.
Huh?
No Ty Cobb.
Where was he going to play? He could play, see, but listen, I could name you another team would be as good as that team. So Ty Cobb would have to be on the other team. Huh?
Designated hitter, maybe.
No, I don't want him on the other team because he's a regular. Yes.
How would George Brett have hit in the Negro Leagues?
George Brett would hit in any league. A great ball player is a great ball player. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Is that it? What you saying?
Obviously, you've seen a lot of great baseball. How did this past year stack up?
Listen, with Sosa and McGuire, what they actually did is the way they deported themselves. You know what happened? It actually made people start liking baseball players again. That's right. Good. That was great. What you say back over in this corner? Babe Ruth, we playing in Chicago. We playing at a field. They had big, high cedar trees in right field. Satchel's first pitch, Ruth hit that ball over those trees. It was a long ways. You know who greeted him at home plate? Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige was at home plate, shook his hand, congratulated him when he passed. And I tell you what, they held up the ball game 15 minutes for a kid to go out and get the ball, bring it back, so Babe Ruth could autograph for Satchel right there. People was crazy. Yeah. You said something right here.
First of all, I'd like to say that we watched the Ken Burns special.
Yeah.
And my children and I, our favorite part was the Negro Leagues and the classy way that you narrated it. And I would like to, I heard a story somewhere, reread it, or my daughter told me about it. She's the baseball nut in the family. She tells me the stories. But there was one about Cool Papa Bell, and I don't know, they were playing in an exhibition game within the major leagues, and he was fairly elderly for baseball, like in his 40s or something, and he bunted the ball and ended up on third base or something like that. You know the story
No,
I'm
the
talking
true
about?
story.
That. Well, okay, tell us. That's
The true story is Cool Papa Bell. Cool Papa Bell scored from first base on a bunt. But this was a made play. He was with the Pittsburgh Crawfords at the time. That was one of the greatest ball clubs ever assembled, because 5 guys played on that team at the same time in the Hall of Fame. But this was a made play. Cool's on second. See, Cool could steal second. Cool's on first. Cool could steal second base standing up. On this play, they throw the ball. The man bunted the ball to third base. Cool was stealing second all the time. Cool was standing on second when the man got the ball down. He went to third, kept running, went to third. Third baseman got to come in the field to bunt. Now the catcher got to come to cover third base. Cool ran right by him and scored. But see, why he scored, the pitcher was looking at Cool run instead of covering home plate. That's right. He scored from first base on that bunt. What you say? I've been waiting for you.
Hi, sweetheart. You said in your book that you had heard that sound 3 times in your life.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth, Josh Gibson, and Bo Jackson, and
Yeah.
you were still waiting to hear it. And the book has been out for a bit, so since the
Yeah.
book came out, has it come to you yet?
No, I'm
That
still
sound.
waiting to hear it. I'm still waiting to hear it.
Thank you.
What you say, pretty lady?
I was wondering where you served in the war and were you able to take a baseball with you?
Huh?
Where you served in the war?
Navy.
In the Navy?
Navy. I served in the Navy. And yeah, I didn't play ball in the Navy either. No. I went to work in the Navy. Went to work in the
Thank you.
Navy, but that was a good time too. Hey, Red.
I'm sorry to hear about your wife and stuff, but I wanted to know, was she very supportive over all the years you were playing baseball? And how supportive was she?
Oh, man. My wife? Yes. Let me tell you how I met that girl. I had a great day. We opened the season in Memphis, Tennessee, 1943. Yeah. And I had 4 for 4 that day. Hit the ball good. Had a good day. That night, I'm at the hotel and relaxing. Dizzy Dismukes, who was our traveling secretary, he was downstairs for dinner in the restaurant in the hotel. And the man that ran the hotel, his wife, was a school teacher. And she had brought some young school teachers over to meet the ball players. See, I'm 35 years old now. You know, I'd seen a lot of people in my life, you know, but I hadn't seen nobody I want to spend the rest of my life with. But anyway, said, come downstairs, Buck. I got some people I want you to meet. I said, okay. I got sharp, man. Went downstairs, and the table that they were sitting was right in front of the door. And when I opened the door, I looked right in Aura's eyes, and I saw her. I walked straight to her. I said, my name's Buck O'Neill. What's yours? That was the beginning. That 1943. I went to the service in the winter of 1943. I wrote her every night, man. And down in the Philippines, man, the moon was so bright, I'd write outside at night and write a letter. I proposed to her there. I mustered out in St. Louis, went and got a haircut, a massage, and a shave, went to Memphis. I get to Memphis. Her daddy had never met me. A daddy sitting on one side, a brother sitting on this side, another brother sitting in front, and mama sitting out there. They want to question me. The father said, well, you're a ball player, you know you're ball players. I said, yes, sir. He said, what did your father do? I said, my father was in recreation. He said, oh, that's fine. My father was a bootlegger, ran a pool room. That was recreation. He said, well, that's all right. So we got married. That was it. We did 51 years, man. Yeah, I got that ring there. What'd you say, big man? I've been waiting for you.
I know there was a lot of great athletes around that time, but I was wondering, were there more players like Oscar Owens back in that days that we just didn't hear about?
Oscar, well, you never heard about Oscar Charleston. Yeah, there's a whole lot of ball players you didn't hear about. That's what the Negro League about. I want you to know about all of these great baseball players. We're putting them in the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown. See, the Negro League Baseball Museum, this was why it was started. Horace Peterson, head of the Black Archives in Kansas City, it was 1990. He said, Buck, come down, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. I got down there. He said, why don't we start a Negro Hall of Fame? I said, no, Horace. I think the guys that's qualified to go in the Hall of Fame should be in Cooperstown. And he said, well, and what would you decide? What would you suggest? I said, Negro League Baseball Museum. That's where it started, right there. We in a little office, wasn't big as this stage. That's where we started. I paid the rent 1 month. Connie Johnson paid it another month. This was all Negro League baseball players. Yes. So, and Bo Mason played it the next month, and so on. That's where we got by. Then the mayor got behind us, and then we started, and we got that Negro League Baseball Museum. You got to come to Kansas City and see it. It's outstanding. Any other questions? I'm about to run out of gas.
During World War II, when the men went to war and they had a women's baseball league, where did the black women play? Did
No,
they play?
at that time, the black women, they weren't allowed to play. This was segregation. The segregation. But then the black women started playing in the Negro Leagues. The Negro Leagues. We had Tony Stone, yeah, Mamie. We had black women playing in the Major League, and they were good athletes.
Mr. O'Neill.
I've been waiting for you, and who is Mr. O'Neill?
Okay, Buck.
You got it.
You mentioned Connie Johnson's name.
Yeah.
Is that the same Connie Johnson that played here with the Sky Sox?
That's Connie
winner
Johnson.
For the White Sox?
That's Connie Johnson.
Okay.
Connie Johnson. You had another ball player out here, a black ball player that played out here with the ball club. Call his name. He was a catcher, Sam Harrison.
Sam Harrison, but then, what was the first baseman's name that went up to the White Sox? What was his name?
Bob Boyd.
Yeah.
Bob
right.
Boyd.
Right.
Bob Boyd. Bob Boyd hit line drive. They went to White Sox and then over to Baltimore. He and Connie Johnson. Yeah, they could play. They were damn near good as me. I've enjoyed it. This is it, all right. Wait, we got one more.
Do you have any idea how many players from the Negro Baseball League are still alive?
We've got about 200 still alive, but now 200 not my venture, not my vintage, because I guess we might have about 70 still living that was playing, during those years. See, but after Jackie went into Major League Baseball, then we started hiring younger ball players. And then we got the younger guys to play baseball, so a lot of those are still living. Mm-hmm. All right. What you say back there? You're welcome, brother. You're welcome. Okay. I'll tell you what. This Colorado water is very good. But I need a little taste of something else now.